The BTK killer, short for bind, torture, kill, was an infamous serial killer active between 1974 and 1991. Behind his facade, he is known as Dennis Rader, the president of the Evangelical Lutheran Church, and described by his children as a normal father. Dennis Rader killed a minimum of 8 people. Like many serial killers, BTK enjoyed taunting law enforcement and the public. He sent letters to local newspapers describing the details of his crimes and taking credit for them. He also sent packages to the police containing mementos from his crimes, such as personal items taken from his victims. In 2004, he sent a floppy disk to the police, which was traced back to a computer at his church. This, combined with other evidence, led to Dennis Rader's arrest. Harold Shipman, a doctor in the UK, pretended to care for his patients, but was actually a cold-blooded killer. He murdered around 215 to possibly over 250 people under the guise of medical treatment. Harold Shipman flew under the radar until an undertaker noticed a suspicious number of cremation certificates Shipman was a part of, along with the fact that most of the cases were elderly women found to have died in bed, not at night, but rather during the day. Police initially mishandled the case, allowing Shipman to keep killing. His downfall came when he got greedy and forget a will, leading to his conviction in 2000. He later committed suicide in prison in 2004. In what world do we find ourselves living? Gary Ridgway, the infamous Green River Killer, holds one of the highest serial killer body counts in U.S. history, with at least 49 murders of women over nearly 2 decades. Targeting sex workers and runaways, he lured them into his car, claiming intimacy, and then strangled them. Ridgway disposed of their bodies in and around the Green River in Washington. Police found body parts and skeletal remains in the area, leading to the suspicion of a serial killer using it as a dumping ground. DNA evidence later linked Ridgway to several killings, and it's widely believed he could have committed more. In what world do we find ourselves living? This serial killer has not been caught to this day. On December the 20th, 1968, the Zodiac Killer committed his first murder. The both victims, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were shot. After that, there were a total of 4 more murders. However, the most absurd part of it all is that the Zodiac Killer sent taunting letters and cryptograms to newspapers, boasting about the murders and threatening further violence. Despite extensive investigations and numerous suspects, the identity of the Zodiac Killer remains unknown, making the case one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in criminal history.
For the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
This serial killer was released from prison. Pedro Alonso Lopez, also known as the Monster of the Andes, claimed to have raped and murdered over 300 women during his killing spree from 1969 to 1980 in Southern America. Over 50% of his victims were below the age of 12. Later in 1980, Lopez was convicted of murder and sentenced to 16 years in prison, the maximum prison sentence available in Ecuador at the time. However, in 1994, he was released from prison on the basis of his good behavior. And we still don't know if he is alive, and if so, where is he located? In what world do we find ourselves living? One ridiculous fact about Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, is that during his trial, he attracted a group of female admirers who were infatuated with him. Some even dubbed themselves as Ramirez groupies. Despite the heinous nature of his crimes, these women sent him letters, attended his court hearings, and even sent him gifts showcasing a bizarre phenomenon of individuals drawn to notorious criminals. Andrei Chikatilo, famously known as the Butcher of Rostov, started his horrifying killing spree in 1978, terrorizing the Soviet Union. Over 12 years, he ruthlessly took the lives of at least 53 victims, mostly young children and women. His methods included brutal acts like strangulation, mutilation, and sadistic violence. Andre Chikatilo evaded capture for a long time by constantly changing locations, targeting victims in different areas, and avoiding a consistent pattern for law enforcement. He chose victims who were often marginalized, making it less likely for them to be promptly reported missing. He skillfully blended into society, appearing normal with a family and a regular job. However, in 1990, he was caught and met his end on February 14, 1994, executed by a firing squad. In what world do we find ourselves living?